Ventus and Branch, what are you all doing?
I was going to try talking to Rexilia. Was it
Rescilia. I
Reskilia?
typed it. All right.
I think their name was Papspillion.
Oh my fucking god.
Rapscallion.
Okay, so you wanted to go talk to him?
Yes, but before I do that, I'm going to put on a disguise.
Okay, 15. You do from what you think is a pretty good job of making yourself look not like you. And then you're gonna have to go find yourself in an Uyarak Reskilia.
I do. Wasn't there something about them being in a tavern somewhere a lot?
Nope.
Okay, I might be thinking
That was
something else.
Rorak.
I would like to go to the castle, I guess, because we're supposed
Finally,
to go
yay! You go to the palace. All right.
It's a trap.
He's going alone. Oh no.
He's going alone in a disguise.
All right. You approach the palace, and as you get there, you see there are a variety of more common folk and merchants, and you see a handful of mages basically kind of going through this large courtyard and going through the beast's mouth, the giant skull overhang that's in front of the door, and the doors are open currently. You see some guards posted. You see two separate groups of Yeti riders that are doing a patrol around the entire building.
Mm-hmm.
And you get into the this large main throne hall with its huge crystal chandeliers at the top and these elegant fur and woven tapestries hanging on the walls and these thin panes of glassy frosted ice that let in light. And by this point, it is starting to get light outside. So there is natural light as well as the light from the crystal chandeliers. And there are guards inside, and there are these huge ice pillars. And you do see at the far end, at the throne, there is the king. He is not currently with his mother. His mother and father, his advisors, are not currently there at his side, but there are a couple guards there as well. And he is currently speaking with a few merchants and whatnot. And you do see that preparation for the wedding is already underway, and the venue is in the palace itself. So you see that there are these large circular tables that are being set up along the sides of the room, and decorations being brought in. These ice sculptures are being set up. As you start to enter, one of the guards on the inside kind of comes over and approaches you, and from behind the mask says, "Please state your name and business in the palace today."
My name is Silikar, and I am here to take part in the preparations for the upcoming festivities.
All right. Okay. That sounded very convincing. He says, Are you a servant of one of the nobles or an independent party? And which part of the wedding venue have you been hired for?"
I am independent, but I have heard that a nobleman by the name of Reskilia is in charge of some of the gourmets that will be served at the wedding. And I have some curiosities that he might enjoy from. Certainly, the king's wedding deserves all the luxuries that it can be brought.
You said that very non-stutterly and also used the word gourmet, so I'll give you deception with advantage.
With this and yeehaw.
Oh, okay then. He's double impressed. The guard nods and gestures down the hall, and indicates. He just gestures openly and says, and he points across the way to a table that's kind of closer to the entrance of the palace, and says,
Okay.
That table has been set aside. Gesundheit.
Sorry, the cold is getting to me.
He nods and says, that table is the one that has been set aside for for Sir Ascilia, and for Lord Ascilia, and he is currently in concert with the King Father and Queen Mother. But if you would wish to wait for him there, then you may, and he will likely be interested in speaking with you.
Thank you so much for your help. And I will go sit down and wait.
Ellie said she'll be back. She'll be on. Maybe we'll actually get some Push content. Too bad she missed. Too bad she missed.
Push does drugs. Push does drugs.
All right. And as you're kind of there, you stand there for a little while. You just kind of watch. You see up near closer to the throne, you see a couple of the merchants kind of finish their conversation with the king, and then they leave. And he's still talking with a little bit of the merchant. He and a couple of what looks like one mage and one noble are just kind of walking down, and they're looking at this like large sculpture that it seems to be that of it's actually an ice sculpture of a Pegasus that's been set up, and they're kind of talking about it. You can't really make out what they're saying at this time. And a few minutes go by. As you're kind of standing there are not a whole lot of other people waiting right now. Like, the only people who are here are either people helping to set up things. It's still pretty low-key at the moment. Like, you've hit it at a time where there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of busyness. There's not really anyone who's just standing around aside from you and the guards. And the people who are working are just kind of keeping to their own business. And after about maybe 5-10 minutes of you waiting, you hear something behind you from the table. And these are tables that have like tablecloths made of like embroidered hide draped over them. And you kind of glance down and you see part of the tablecloth moving beside you at this large circular table.
Just like underneath the tablecloth?
Yeah.
I'll take a peek.
Okay. I will find a picture eventually. All right, so Ventus, what you see under the table, you hear kind of what sounds like snuffling, and these are pretty tall tables. And I should say that the tables themselves are like a ring of wood. So there's like and they're not totally closed off. It's just a ring semicircle table with area in the middle, and you kind of pull the tablecloth up, and lo and behold, what greets your face with this huff of cold, icy breath is a very large wolf.
Okay.
Oh.
It's a wolf.
It's a wolf.
It's a pup dog.
It's a wolf.
And you see immediately this very large furred creature is having some trouble fitting underneath it. And that's why you were very easily managed to see it. And it's got this thick white collar on it. And as soon as it sees you, it just goes and just jumps out at you, and then just starts sniffing all over your clothes with this deep booming bark that I cannot replicate. And it's and this thing's pretty big. It's good dire wolf size. It's a large creature, and it's pretty forceful with its movements. It's just sniffing all over you, just pressing its giant nose into your.
I'll let it sniff me, but other than that, I'm not gonna pay attention to it.
You don't have a choice. It's pushing itself into you. And then at one point, it actually just does the thing that big dogs do, where it rears up on its back legs and plants its front paws on your shoulders.
He's just trying to say hello.
Ventus is not a nice person. He's going to push him off. not like push him, like knock him over, but just like pick him up. We'll try to pick him up.
You're not strong enough for that.
Hey, that's a contested strength check.
Well, luckily you don't have to, because as this is happening and the dog's starting to make a racket and kind of obnoxiously annoy you, you hear a voice say, Hey, Hati, come, Skull. Yeah, I didn't mean to say Hati. He says, Skull. And you look over and you see the king rushing over. The King Amarok rushing over. He says, and the dog immediately jumps down off of you and just ducks over to him and just starts nuzzling into his hand. These big panting breaths. And he looks over and sees you and says, I'm I'm terribly sorry. He likes to get into things, especially new people he hasn't met, and he's supposed to be kept under watch by Chena. You're supposed to be keeping her company. How did you get out? And the dog just goes, "Huff!" And he just says, "Go, you stupid mutt. Go find Chena." And then he looks back to you and claps his hand and says, "I'm so sorry. They're not supposed to do that to people that they've... well, you understand dogs, I'm sure.
I understand. Thank you for your help back there. He's certainly
Your Majesty.
quite a large fellow.
Your Majesty.
Fine, your man.
Thank you. Okay.
Ventus would know better.
Yeah, Ventus would know better. Zach would not. He says, "Ah, well, let's hope he didn't hurt you at all, did he? He can be a bit forceful."
I am fine. I'll just kind of dust myself off and...
Oh, well, I have its question.
redo my little shoulder pads.
He says, anything I can help you with? You seem to... waiting for someone? Are you one of the noble's associates?
I am a noble by the name of Silicar. I wish to speak with Resquilia about some of the festivities for your wedding. And congratulations.
Make a deception check.
I was sincere with the congratulations.
Yeah, but everything else was not truth.
Oh, shit.
Everything else was not the fucking truth, sir.
Uh-oh.
Good thing you have a +10 to your
Yeah,
other
Jesus.
rolls.
Yeah. I am a noble named Silicar. I don't think that lie is offset by congratulations at the end. Something tells me that's not how it works. All right.
Rats.
Interesting.
He rolled a 2, please. He rolled a 2.
No, he did not roll a 2.
He rolled a 1?
No, not quite.
That means he rolled a
3.
Nope.
4?
Let's
5?
just say it was higher than 14.
I'm fucked.
The dog's starting to pad down the hallway, and he just kind of puts his hand to his lips, and he goes, noble named Silicar, you say? Interesting name. Not one that I'm familiar with. And
Oh boy.
he kind of leans close to you, and he's just kind of looking at you closely.
I got my disguise.
You do, which is why this could turn bad. He just looks at you and says, "Now, it's a funny thing. Quite familiar with all the nobles here. There's only so many of them, and name Silicar is not one of them."
I do not hail from Moranthamir. I am from far south, towards Donskar.
Said you were one of the nobles. He said, "Interesting." And
I meant like a noble, but
well, he said the nobles.
maybe I was mistaken.
He said the nobles, which implies the nobles here, which is basically interesting. And if you're from so far south in Donskar, how exactly do you know Resquilia?
Well, I've inquired around about him. You see, I am here on the business of supplying imports from Donskar. I can supply you with various fruits and other things, such things for your wedding. And I have heard that Resquilia is in charge of such matters, and thus I wish to speak with him. If this would be within if you judge this to be acceptable, your grace.
Not your grace.
Well, your highness, or
Your Majesty.
Your Majesty, always your Majesty.
Always your
Literally.
Majesty, dude.
Zach's just the sweating man,
It's
JPEG.
I'm debating whether or not that your previous failure with deception is gonna ruin you, or if I'm gonna let you
So
try.
you're saying I should just give up?
No, I'm trying to determine how he would react to this, because
That was reasonable.
it was. Had he not seen through the first part of lies.
Wow. I'm just gonna stop trying to lie, and we'll just have split.
You rolled a
barrel
4,
through.
okay? Sometimes the dice just aren't in your favor, dude. It's not got nothing to do with you.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like stealth checks then. If it's one deception that failed deception that ruins it all, then it's really
Fine,
difficult.
make another deception check to see if you can cover your
Watch
ass.
me roll a 1.
That's not
There
a
we
1.
go.
I don't think he can beat this. Short of a natural.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me see what his modifier is.
I think nobles do get proficiency, so.
You lucky son of a bitch.
I know.
His total with his modifier is a 23. Son of a bitch. God, he rolled a 19. Ah! It was so good.
He's a bard.
You
okay?
bastard.
Bards are really,
I know.
really good
I
at
was
these
so
things.
excited.
I miss my plus 13 to deception.
I
All right.
miss my plus
Initially,
five.
he was a bit off put by your whole. Yes, I'm one of the nobles. I'm not. And he's like, huh. And how do you know? And he's like, okay. So what's your connect? What's your real deal here? But then you kind of explain that, and he's like, okay, that makes a bit more sense than my first assumption. So you see the curious glint in his eye kind of subside a little bit. And he leans back from you and says, he says, well, I'm not the one who's. What the fuck was his accent? Throw you off the glacier. Okay.
I'm not the one that would throw you off glacier.
That's not it. That's not it at all. He says,
Got to get a little bit check in there. Just not Russian, but a little check.
yes, throw you off the
Yeah.
glacier. He says, well, it's not my place to tell Raskilia how to do his business, so if you really are here to do business with him, then he's the one you'll have to do business with. But I look forward to seeing some of these fine fruits and whatnot at the wedding. So here's hoping that your negotiations with the man go over well. I have to say he can be a bit prickly, so choose your words wisely.
Thank you, Your Majesty.
Hey.
Right, well done. So, alrighty then.
Through the power of bullshit rolls, I win
to the
again.
king puzzle.
All right. So he heads.
I'm gonna have to convince everyone in this entire castle, aren't I?
Yep.
Alright.
Alrighty. Doop doop doop. All right, then you wait another maybe 10 minutes or so, and then you see from one of the back hallways up the way, you see a man come out. He has a small entourage of two more simply dressed servants who are at his side, and he's just kind of speaking quietly to them as he approaches the area you are at, and I will show you his face.
Show the face.
Ooh.
I'd do it.
All right, he starts to approach your area, and he kind of slows up a little bit when he spots you just kind of lurking there, and then just, oh no, I have to think of an accent for him. Well, not an accent, just a voice in general.
The rude.
Just make it. Oh, how many people would kill me if I just made him Jenkins?
I wouldn't. I would love you forever.
Valid.
What would Sarah say about that?
Get out of here.
I don't know if I can actually make myself do that accent in all seriousness.
I couldn't.
Oh no.
I don't even know how to do it.
You're hello. I don't know.
Actually, that was it.
That's more of a Tim Curry. Honestly, just go with it. Go with the Tim Curry.
That was
Yes.
literally the first thing he said, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no. Well, we're going. Fuck it. I just forewarning. This guy's accent's gonna change like a goddamn merry-go-round. All right. He approaches you and has this kind of curious, somewhat slightly disdainful looking look. He's like, "Okay, who the fuck are you?" He approaches you and holds his chin up and says, "And who might you be?"
Thank you for meeting me. I am Silikar. I am a noble from Donskar. With me, I bring many fine foods and drinks, and that I wish to introduce for the king's wedding. I have heard that you are in charge with such festivities, and as such, I humbly request your time and attention.
I am in charge of a small amount. No. Oh no, help.
He turned southern.
Oh, no.
He's northern, Tessa.
No!
He's
I know! Shut up! How do you do a Russian accent?
All right, you know how this world has 9 days. It's it also has 2 souths as well.
That is not true!
South and south too.
If
Nope.
you go south enough, you'll end up north. So
Oh my
Mhm.
god.
Really, everything's somewhat south,
Oh god.
yeah.
at least in this world.
Well, okay, his accent is this now. This is what it is.
Okay.
I have
What a
to.
despicable
Dracula,
man.
Dracula.
I have to remember it.
Wait, he's... Can I kill a vampire?
He's not a vampire. He is a snooty bastard.
He does
Oh,
not
no.
say blah blah blah.
Tessa, you failed your deception check.
He kind of looks at you and says, "Interesting proposal. What kind of wares would you have?"
A couple things. One, are we in private?
Nope. You're in the middle of the throne room.
Okay. Two, can I make an int check to try to remember some of the things that were in Donskar?
Sure.
Because
I will do
you
the
good
same.
vibes.
I will make an int check to remember what the hell they have down there as well. Eek. They have. You rolled fine. Um. Um. Dawnscar's got stuff like daikon. It's got lotus roots. It's got squash and melons and peppers and sweet potatoes and oranges.
Alright, well, I'll say something. With me, I have oranges. I have some of the Federation's most exquisite oranges, some squashes that I've managed to keep fresh, and amongst them, some other things. Might I be able to show you?
Make a deception check with advantage, because you actually said things that he knows exist in the South.
Yeah. Not the best. So, if he's more insightful than the king,
I mean,
I look at these and I realize, wow, that's a 14, and you got a 24 on that roll.
well, here's the thing.
That's-
His insight modifier is 1 better than the king. But he
And he
rolled
rolled a
2
19.
lower than the king did. You rolled a 17. 17 plus 5 is
You're
not
doing
enough.
it, Ventus. I just want to say, Drygon's death broke the curse of you rolling really bad.
I'm not even rolling that great. I just built a character that's about this.
Alright.
Well, no, I mean like, you're succeeding, even if you're not rolling.
Oh, that curse.
Yeah. Alright then. He believes you, fuck.
I didn't mean that to come off so sass.
Not just that I'm rolling bad, but that I'm a failure.
Alright, he gestures to one of his servants and says, whatever his accent was. Hello.
Vampire.
Vampire. I'll have to listen to the recording to remember it. That's what I had to do with the king. Says, you stay here and take care of the rest of the organization. He snaps his fingers to the other one, who's this meek, younger-looking elven woman, who just kind of tails behind him, and he says, all right, take me to your wares and show me what you have, and perhaps we may come to an arrangement, as what I have been dealing with locally is not necessarily all the way up to standard. Also, as you two start to walk out, I'd like you to make a perception check.
Well,
The first
that
one
would've
was what it was. Okay. There, you just kind of quickly glance over him and get a general sense of him. It's not really an insight check. You're just looking over. He's very finely dressed, much like the other nobles. The clothing he has in the picture that I sent is not accurate. He's wearing more of the similar blues with these very sumptuous white furs and stuff and whatnot. And still, he's got a pretty. His face looks like he sneers a lot. As you two are watching, there's just a faint hint of a sulfurous scent in the air as you two leave.
Oh.
I'm sorry, what was that last bit?
A hint of a sulfurous scent in the air as you leave.
Do I know what sulfur is?
Roll an intelligence check. Know what sulfur is? It doesn't smell great.
like rotten
Can I
egg.
tell where it's coming from?
With that perception check, it's just kind of around him. It doesn't seem to be
Okay.
coming from any.
Oh, it's around
Gee.
him.
That's not
Okay.
concerning at all.
You kind of pick it up. There's just a little bit of it that seems to be slightly wafting off, like his clothing. You're not sure exactly where. It just seems to. It's like just part. It almost seems to be part of the general, just air in his vicinity and kind of like the scents that sink into your clothes over time. But it's just you just pick up a faint trace of it, very faint trace.
Very interesting. I'll just kind of start chatting him up a bit and say things like, so
what are you doing later tonight?
during your after the festival, what are your normal duties around the court?
Let me go to my Google Docs to remember what the fuck nobles do here.
They dance.
I can dance! Oh, Sarah's not here to get that joke, damn it.
No, he does. He's the bard. He does have to sleep with everyone. That's what the bard is for.
Oh, that's what they said.
Oh.
No.
I don't know if he's considering blowing up the king. That's a pretty
We're okay
That's a-
then.
well. Not that I care. It's more. It's a very intrusive.
Is that
direct
the
way.
connection you made with the sulfur scent? Blowing
I
up?
mean,
Yeah,
That's
I made a connection with the sulfur.
Thank you,
scent.
someone did.
that's what I was thinking.
That's not what you were supposed to connect, but if that's
But
what Ventus
sure.
would connect, that makes a lot of sense.
I mean, he's planning on like doing stuff at the wedding. That's a totally reasonable.
Sierra
plan.
can Sierra
it
can be
is.
the one to bring it up then.
In Job's vision, he had a sulfurous smell. I don't know if that was also the connection.
Oh,
I could be wrong.
I don't remember that.
Something foul seeks to defile a frozen throne, and as you were in the vision, you remember a sulfurous scent.
oh.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I wonder.
Which, to be
what
fair, I
that
don't think Ventus would have known that.
He's just sulfurous, but that's just how he is. That's not indicative
He
of anything.
smells.
Yep, he's just a stinky lad. Okay, as you're saying that, your checks have been pretty good. I'm not gonna have to make you keep making them for a little while, if just not for small talk. He just says, "Well, I am a representative of my village. It is far to the north, and as with many of the nobles here, I'm sure you have heard, most of us have mage ancestry, and so we assist with magical duties here around the palace and the city in order to keep it prosperous and defended."
Prosperous.
Prospero.
And yourself, what? Surely there is more that brings you north than just the wedding of our dear king.
Well, you see, though I hail from Donskar, I am originally from Maranthamir. You see, my parents traveled southward to find a new life for themselves and to make something of themselves. And quite frankly, I have found it rather distasteful in the south, and I am searching to return to the north.
Oh,
Wouldn't
solid play.
Wouldn't you agree that it's quite nice
You see
up here?
distinctly just the curl of a sneer on his face as you mention the distaste. You see him starting to nod, and he says, And his servant's kind of hanging back a couple feet, just kind of head bowed, just following behind him and not interrupting at all. And he just nods along and says, "Yes, I can understand where you would have gotten such a perspective. It is our home, and it should be kept safe and isolated from the rest of the lands. Fruitful as mercantile operations may be, I do understand the inclination for isolation and the ice."
The purest ice is quite beautiful and magnificent, but painted with impurities.
Oh wow,
it can
you're going hard.
become
I love it.
rather ugly, wouldn't you agree?
It is perhaps not the aesthetics that come to mind, but the security that the ice provides. He gestures out around you, and you see the massive walls of ice, and then further out beyond the city itself, the massive peaks of this enormous glacier. And he says, "I understand you may not be familiar with it, but I and my family have lived here for a very long time, and the ice does protect, but he
Dangerous
just,
times are brewing.
that is
And
certainly a word for it. The influx of outsiders is not particularly encouraging for the stability of the ice."
I must confess, I have not been purely honest with you.
You see his eyes narrow.
I am, in truth, not a merchant from Donskar. I am a noble indeed, but rather it is these fears of outsiders that has driven me to return home. And I wish to speak with you not in matters of the festivities, but with matters I have heard of your distaste with non-elven folk. And
This seems like a good time for you to make another deception check.
yeah, that's about time, isn't it?
Yeah. I was letting you go for the small talk, but now that you're starting to get into a meatier conversation... Oh, you get together.
There's still a chance.
No,
You could go-
wait. Plus,
You can do it, Seth.
I've been rolling
Zach.
really fucking good the last couple of rolls. What? His modifier was 5?
Oh shit! Did he get like an 18?
Do you get an OP?
When do I get to meteor swarm this place?
See,
Oh my god, Oris is gonna turn into the evil.
Mm.
And then Splint's gonna make a deal with the evil character. And then, oh my
Oris isn't evil, he just is a pyromaniac.
give me a hot second to think about how I want to do this.
Oh god damn
Well,
it!
see, the problem is, he beat you by 1, which is not a lot. So I'm trying to figure out I'm trying-
I tried so hard.
what.
I tried so hard.
Well-
Well, I have a backup.
Well, here's the thing. He beat you by 1, but you said a lot through that, and I'm trying to figure out where he's gonna pick up the lie, and how deep he's gonna figure out that lie goes. Because he only beat you by 1, and 23 is still a really fucking good deception. So I don't want it, I feel like it's a bit cheap to be like, oh, you rolled a 23, but he beat you by 1, so he automatically knows that everything you said just now was a lie. That feels fairly cheap, because you still deceived him pretty fucking good, but
Thank you.
I feel like meta-wise, he's picked up that something that you've said isn't. He's figured out that something's off with something you've
I
said.
am an orange merchant.
I'll say
In fact, I have lied about lying about being an orange merchant.
he
That
rolled
would
he
be
rolled
pretty
high
good.
enough to have picked up that something is off with what you just said. But where you stand right now, you're fairly confident that he bought what you said. Meta-wise, he's picked up that something's off, and I will figure out on my own what it is that he picked out once I figure out what he
Okay.
was going to say next.
Okay.
I would feel so bad if I was just like, you rolled a 23, but fuck you anyway. Like, that feels so cheap, because he only beat you by 1. So
Thank you.
it's the beginnings of him picking up that you're lying, but it's not like, I see through your plan! He'd have to roll like a nat 20 for that.
Woo!
As soon as you start rolling things higher than a 15, he's not gonna have a chance. Alright, so he's kind of nodding around this. He kind of slows down a bit when you mention... His walking slows as you bring up this whole, I've been drawn to you, and he says, really, you have been the... What things exactly do you think you have heard about me?
For one, I have heard of what you've just said. The Maranthamir is cold and not an appropriate place for some people of impure blood.
Impure!
And perhaps I may have misheard, but I was under the assumption that you had been out voicing concerns with the king, but that they had fallen on deaf ears. Am I mistaken?
I am unsure of where you got this kind of information, but it is not... He's kind of looking at you a bit, with a bit stronger interest. He says, it is not entirely correct, though I am curious to know who has been spreading this information to outside ears.
I'm afraid that such secrets spread rather quickly, and I have heard so from many of the foreigners in the outskirts of town who have perhaps overly sensitive.
He actually kind of scoffs now. Just they do not understand our culture, and that is not our fault. Our ways have been unchanged, and the fact that they cannot accept that is no business of mine. The problems that they have with the way that I do things, well. What would you hope to accomplish knowing this information?
It is rather simple. I wish to relocate and return home after my long life of insecurity. And seeing that Maranthamir is occupied by people who don't belong, I would wish to aid you in any such matters that would help reestablish the purity of the ice.
Indeed. Make one more deception check.
Don't roll shit.
Don't roll shit. I like how this is going.
Oh shit. Don't roll shit.
17. That wasn't very great.
That's a 7.
Well, he rolled a 9. Woo! He rolled a 9 for his insight. He has no fucking clue. Well, no fucking clue. He's still... Like, the thing that he thought was off is starting to be a bit... Like, I feel like it would still be there a little bit, but he's starting to think, okay, maybe there's something to this guy. Maybe I can get something out of him.
Wait, he's hoping to use me?
No, he's thinking like...
He's gonna use you for land development.
No.
All right, I'm getting thirsty. He just kind of is nodding, and he actually just stops where he stands now. He just pauses with his hands behind his back, and he looks at you and says, I do not think I will be needing your wares, sir. So what was your name? Silicar? I keep thinking it's Silicon.
Yeah, that's right.
Sir Silicon.
No, that's
Silly car.
Silicar, yes.
No, that's his rapper name. Silicon.
He says, I do not
Cardi.
think I will be needing much use of your wares, Lord Silicar. Come with me. I believe you may serve a different use to these purposes in this city.
I only wish what is best for this most royal of occasions, and I will walk with him.
All right.